This is What Helps Us Heal with Erin Myers. I'm Erin, Pilates instructor, scoliosis expert, and someone who lives with complex health diagnoses. Here, we talk about what helps us heal with practical tools, hopeful conversations, and the reminder that a diagnosis does not define you. Everything discussed here is meant to educate and inspire, not replace medical care. Please consult your doctor or other qualified health professionals for guidance specific to you. I'm here with Heather Massey, and she is a nationally certified Pilates instructor and was comprehensively trained by Balance Body. She has been a client of mine for about 10 years and is now a teacher at Spiral Spine and helps people along their journey of living with scoliosis. She is a Scoli beauty herself and has been on a fair journey of health and healing. So, Heather, thank you for coming on. And why don't you let us know kind of your background and a little bit about your journey?
Okay, well, thank you. So as far as Scoli, I was diagnosed when I was about 12. Found it when I moved out of state to a different state. Interestingly, a chiropractor that I saw regularly there in my old hometown always just said I had a violin shoulder, but never found scoliosis. So could have got on it a lot sooner, but that's not how it was meant to be. So my mom took me to a new chiropractor once we moved to a new town, and he found it. And my mom's a big part of this. And I'll share, since it's a nutrition episode, I'll share a little more nutrition focus here. But she, being a nurse, is an important part of this because she always talks about how she worked at hospitals and seeing people come into the ER and her patients she was taking care of. A lot of it was preventable, things that people were struggling with sickness-wise could have been possibly prevented with good nutrition, taking better care of themselves. So when I was diagnosed with scoliosis, nutrition was already a big part of our lives that she had integrated in, obviously mainstream Western medicine as well. But so, they just took me to a chiropractor. Nutrition was a big part of it. And that was my treatment. I didn't go to an orthopedist. I didn't wear a brace. Nothing. And I did pretty well. Even through adulthood, I mean, my 20s, I kind of had some ups and downs and probably got a little malnourished in my 20s for different reasons, but, got myself back into some good nutrition to where I could have children when I got married. So I have two children, a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old, or a 12-year-old daughter now. They're 4 years apart. So I had a few disc issues. I felt pretty good through my pregnancies. I had good, healthy pregnancies, natural birth. But after my first pregnancy, I had some disc issues. So I had to do some, I did some injections and did some of that thing, but the most helpful things for me were the cutting edge, more holistic approaches. So I did some different type of things, like some injections that were not even FDA approved. And that led me to a longevity functional medicine clinic in California. And they helped me to kind of make they customized a program for me. So just based on my biochemistry, to help beat down inflammation. And that was a game changer for me. I was having migraines and just, back pain and things at the time still from my disc injury. It was all healing, but that definitely increased and sped up the process. So that's kind of where my even deeper passion of nutrition began. It'd always been kind of a hobby of mine, but that's when I really started to get interested in it. After my second child, my daughter, that's when I felt like my scoliosis really progressed a lot more. And so that's when I started doing a lot more for that specifically that I had been ignoring. And that's when I found you and Spiral Spine. I also got involved with a nutraceutical company that was focused on whole food nutrition, which gave me access to lots of doctors, lots of research. And then it really became, my children were small at the time, and those types of things I could put into my children. And so then I really started to think about, I really want to do what I can to prevent scoliosis in my kids. And, that kind of became my passion after that. And that's, we've talked about that a lot. Yep. So in addition to just, Pilates and the things that we've been doing physically, I really believe nutrition is a big piece of the puzzle. So, and we've learned that a lot through research, which we'll talk about
Yep,
today. So,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. So when I started working with Heather as a client, did a lot of work together. And then one day, I don't even remember how this all happened. One day, you kind of agreed to help me. I told you I was working on this new book called I Have Scoliosis, Now What? And I knew we both had a fear of scoliosis going down to our children.
Yeah.
And we knew that the body was meant to heal, and we knew that there was a way to kind of biohack our way, hopefully, around figuring this stuff out. And I had solely been collecting scoliosis research and nutrition research over the years. And I remember walking into the studio one day, I had this massive stack, and I said, "Here you go, Heather, I need your help."
It
And
was
that was
actually
the
like a
beginning.
Christmas present to me.
So that's how this all started. So Heather actually helped me write chapter 13 in my latest book, I Have Scoliosis, Now What? And there are 350 research references in that chapter. And there is so much information on what we know as the root of idiopathic scoliosis.
Hmm.
And that is what we're going to dive into today. So that's the backstory on Heather. That's how we started writing chapter 13. And it is a heck of a chapter. And there is just shocking information that you're going to learn about. So we're just going to dive right in. And so Heather and I are going to be referencing. So if you see us holding up a book, that is because we're referencing our notes
There's
and
a
we're
lot.
referencing the book because there's great stuff in there. So Heather, do you want to take it off on the first nutrient?
Yes. What is our first nutrient? Melatonin?
Yes, we're
That's
gonna.
right.
Well, I don't
Okay.
even know if we can call that a nutrient, but yes, the first
It's
area is melatonin.
it's a piece of the puzzle. So,
Mhm.
I think you and I both take melatonin. I mean, I started taking
Yep.
it on an overseas trip to Asia, but I never really stopped since then. And I know you have some certain things that you like to take. I kind of just stick with the same thing, but what we kind of learned through research, and let me get here. So basically, melatonin is directly related to the pineal gland. If I was saying that right, and the pituitary. The pituitary doesn't control the pineal gland. It's actually the hypothalamus that is the master controller for both the pineal and the pituitary. Basically, children with scoli need to sleep. Let's just start there. Research has shown that melatonin can improve bone health through its free radical scavenger and antioxidant properties. When bone samples were taken in those with adolescent idiopathic scoliosis during scoli surgeries, it was found that the signaling of melatonin was clearly impaired. So there's something with people who have scoliosis that maybe we don't create melatonin well. There's something off, and I haven't found anything in the research that gets to that directly, but probably we could kind of follow the path and figure some of that out. But basically, so you kind of know, I did a little research on some of the glands just to kind of dig a little bit deeper here. So like I said, the hypothalamus is the master controller for both the pineal and the pituitary. I think the pituitary is an important piece because both of us have been to a doctor who tested, and when I've had sleep troubles, my pituitary wasn't working properly, and I had to get some nutrition to support the pituitary as well. And that kind of fixed some sleep problems. So the pituitary is your master gland. So a master gland, which controls like thyroid, ovaries, adrenals. Adrenals is an important part here because cortisol. When cortisol is high at night, you're not going to sleep as well. So not only just taking melatonin, but there's got to be an important part here of working on your sleep-wake cycle, because the pineal gland, when light is on, melatonin is suppressed, and then in darkness, your body starts making melatonin. So it's important for kiddos, especially with scoli, I think, and for me, even as I get older, you've got to stay cognizant of that. And it's more difficult these days with technology, blue screens, LED lights, all those kinds of things that could really mess up your sleep cycle. So if you're someone who struggles with making melatonin anyways, taking melatonin can be helpful, but also, you might look at helping the pituitary because they do interact. Um, and you know, they can influence. So melatonin from the pineal gland can influence pituitary hormones. But I would also argue that if your pituitary is not strong and your cortisol is high and you have too much cortisol at night and you're not making melatonin, you're not able to go to sleep and you're all messed up. So some other things other than taking, just a melatonin supplement could be turning down the lights at night. I mean, as soon as dinner's done, I'm turning down the lights. I fight hard to not put LED lights in our house whenever possible. I've gone to like buying the Edison lights, because that's the only incandescent lights I can find to put in my lamps. So I'm going to lamps at night. We all have blue blocking glasses. Just all those things help us all to, make more melatonin naturally. Of course, there's a lot of foods like cherries, things like that. But also, just waking up in the morning and get some light in your eyes right away can help reset that cycle. So just do a little research, on other ways to help your body, help your kid's body or your body to more naturally make melatonin because it's important.
Yep. And melatonin, in the most basic form, melatonin is required to help you sleep.
Yeah.
And Heather and I, without going too much into our stories, Heather and I have gone through pieces of insomnia. And it's
Yeah.
very interesting. And I have witnessed this around the Scully world. And you're like, I wonder if this is everyone or, is this just a random occurrence? So there is a one little piece of research that I'm going to read from the
Mm-hmm.
book that we quoted in the book. And it says, melatonin deficiency plays a role in the prognosis of idiopathic scoliosis. Therefore,
Mm-hmm.
melatonin supplements may prevent the progression of scoliosis, especially in mild cases with less than a 35-degree curve. Now,
Yeah.
does everyone need to be popping melatonin? No, but the research sure is interesting. And if your child struggles with it, like one of my children has always struggled with sleep. And one of the supplements that he takes at night has a little bit of melatonin in it. And I was really worried. Like he's been taking it since he was 9 and he's an upper teenager now. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to mess with my kids' hormones, all this stuff. And then I read this and I was like, maybe it's okay. And he's sleeping like a champ now. And he, knock on wood, has not formed scoliosis. So it's an interesting thing to ponder.
Yes, for sure. And I just think sleep is so important, especially while kids are growing. And if you're not rested, it just everything downstream from there can,
Yep.
everything that we talk about can be harder.
Yep. All right. You want to go on to zinc, Heather?
Okay. Sounds good. So basically, zinc is a trace mineral. It's an essential trace mineral. And it's important because of the role it plays in hormones. Um, Melatonin and thyroid, all top factors to consider. So, zinc also plays a vital role in puberty to support growth.
Zinc is
There
also
it is.
really, really important in fighting infections.
Yes.
So if you are sick all the time, that should be an indication that you're low in zinc. Both of my sons and I have been taking zinc for a very long time. We did some nutrition testing. Our zinc was all very low. So we have been supplementing this for a long time.
For sure. And I just learned recently, so one of my kids was having some gastrointestinal issues, and in my research, I was finding how crucial. Along the same lines, we know the immune system is so important, direct related to the gut health, and so zinc is actually crucial for gut health. So zinc actually strengthens the intestinal barrier, which improves the lining of the gut. It also helps zinc and zinc homeostasis kind of help create a good intestinal barrier. So that's a deficiency, like you said, can affect immune response and dysbiosis of the gut. And we know we'll talk later that gut health is important for scoliosis as well. So there's good ways that you can check too if you get the ionic zinc, and you could check for a deficiency that way by just putting a little bit in your mouth. I think it's like 1 or 2 teaspoons. And if you immediately get a a bitter or metallic taste, then you're pretty good on your zinc levels. But if you don't taste anything or have a delayed response, then you probably are good chances zinc deficient. But if you're taking a zinc supplement, you also need to make sure you're following your copper because they
Correct.
are inversely related. So
Yep.
if you're taking zinc, you got to also check your copper, make sure your copper levels don't get too low.
Yep.
And vice versa. If your copper's super high, you might need to check your zinc too. So
Exactly.
yeah. But yeah, as soon as we get a cold or anything, it's zinc time for sure.
Yep.
So
I wrote the book, I Have Scoliosis. Now what? Because after more than 20 years of studying scoliosis research, working with scoli clients around the world, and living with scoliosis myself, I kept hearing the same question. I've been diagnosed with scoliosis. Now what do I do? Most people diagnosed with scoli are told what their curve is, but not why it developed or what they can actually do about it. This book brings together decades of medical research with what I've learned working with real people's bodies to help you better understand your diagnosis. In the book, I explore factors that influence scoliosis and curve progression, and how things like movement, muscle balance, and nutrition can help support your spine. I also walk through treatment options, from movement therapies and bracing to surgical considerations, so you can make informed decisions about your body. Whether you're a parent of a newly diagnosed child, a teenager navigating scoliosis, or an adult living with it, my goal is to give you the knowledge, tools, and confidence to better understand your spine, take charge of your diagnosis, and advocate for your health. You can purchase I Have Scoliosis, Now What? On Amazon in paperback and Kindle formats. One thing that is absolutely vital in my healing journey is regular lab testing. Getting labs done can be such a headache. A lot of the practitioners I work with don't take insurance, and while I absolutely value their expertise, I don't want to spend hundreds of dollars every time I want to test something specific for myself or my boys because I have to pay for an appointment for one of my doctors first. This is how I found Ulta Lab Tests. I figured out how to test things for myself, but ran into a major roadblock when literally all companies refused to test kids under the age of 18. Lo and behold, Ulta Lab Tests will order testing for kids, so I could order my boys and my testing in one easy place. They're literally the only independent lab ordering company I found that will do it. I was worried that my doctors would be upset that I went around them to test my family without them writing a lab order, but was shockingly surprised that every single one of my doctors was very happy when I showed up to appointments with recent test results in hand. I saved both me and my family's doctors valuable time. When I first started testing, I discovered that my boys and I were severely deficient in multiple nutrients, deficiencies that interestingly lined up with what research has shown the scoliosis population is deficient in too. The research I compiled in Chapter 13 of I Have Scoliosis, Now What?, which references more than 350 research articles, includes suggestions for what to test, nutrient deficiencies, imbalances to look out for, and ways to better support the body through a more individualized approach. I put together 2 lab panels with Ulta Lab Tests based on the research referenced in Chapter 13 of I Have Scoliosis, Now What? So if you have scoli and want to start testing and healing, but don't know where to start, I've got you covered and have done the work for you. Go to spiralspine.com/shop to access my Ulta Lab Tests link with pre-put together scoli lab tests and use code Erin Myers 20 in all caps to get an additional 20% off. The link is also in the show notes. Again, go to spiralspine.com/shop to access my Ulta Lab Tests link with pre-put together scoli lab tests you can order for yourself and use code Erin Myers 20. That's ERINMYERS 20 in all caps to get an additional 20% off. So speaking of gut health, that's the next one. Do you want to hop on that bandwagon and chat about what research has shown about gut health in scoli?
yes, and actually some updates that I found to the research.
Ooh, please
I
do
kind of
speak.
looked that up because it was a fairly new research piece that I found kind of right before we were done with this chapter. So we know the gut microbiome is essential for digestion and utilization of a variety of nutrients. So we had found research, and that found that those with AIS had an abundance of the bacteria Prevotella. I'm not probably going to say all these right. Gelleria and Dissolvul Vibrio. Probably should have practiced that earlier. In the intestines or gut microbiome. the more Prevotella that was present, the higher one's Cobb angle. So interestingly, I also looked at like what's Prevotella. It's associated with periodontal disease, which is interesting. Two of those are linked to periodontal disease. Also, an abundance of Prevotella is linked to bacterial vaginosis, rheumatoid arthritis, metabolic disorders, and low-grade systemic inflammation. So, gut health is important. So I went and kind of just looked up some of that research again. So research did suggest a link between Prevotella and scoliosis. So at the time of this chapter that we wrote, the only study found that more Prevotella present, the higher one's Cobb angle. That was a study from 2019, which was a fairly small study of only about 80 people. Since then, there's been a couple updates. So there was a study published in February 2024, which had about 126 AIS patients in it, and the relative abundance of Prevotella was positively correlated with femur bone mineral density. It actually showed Prevotella was protective of bone health. There was also a Mendelian randomization study that was published in 2023 that showed Prevotella 9 possibly was protective against AIS. So they found 7 microbiota in this study. Okay, I won't tell all of them because we don't need to know all of those, but and we could share the study. I've got it linked somewhere. There's
I'd love to
7 microbiota with very long names that may raise the risk of scoliosis, as well as 4 protective bacteria. And Prevotella 9 was one of them that may reduce the risk of scoliosis. So
Interesting.
a little bit of, now that was a much bigger study, and they kind of pulled data from different genotype, databases. There were about 18,000 profiles that they, pulled from, and there were 1,100 Scoliosis cases in there. So that might be a better study. But I think just the point is, with what we have is take care of your gut. And if you are having symptoms or maybe not having symptoms, there's a lot of ways to check gut health and then just stay ahead of it. I recently had a lab done. I've not been having any gut symptoms, but we did find kind of a yeast overgrowth. So we're just jumping on it, and I'm taking care of it now before it becomes a thing. So, yeah.
There's really easy ways to do gut testing, stool tests, myriad of different ways. Both my boys and I have been with practitioners, multiple, that have done stool testing, and we multiple times over have cleaned out the gut. So regardless of where we land on, is Prevotella good or bad for Cobb angle? Well, it's a piece of it. And just like what you're talking about with zinc, scoliosis should show that there's stuff going on inside the body that's not perfectly working well. And this gut, it needs to be checked out.
And I had some gut issues as a kid. My daughter actually was born and had gut issues. And when I got her on some higher fiber supplements, fixed it immediately. And then as she got older, kind of got into some other issues. And through the help of a nutritional testing doctor, we got some new enzymes, digestive enzymes in there, and have been super helpful. So elimination is important too, because you've got to get those toxins out. We're also not good at detoxing, most of us, with Scully. And so if you're not eliminating regularly, like once every couple of days is not enough, you're reabsorbing toxins into your body. I mean, I've learned that with the mold detoxing and things. If you don't get it out, your body's reabsorbing it. So stay on top of that. Yeah.
Amen, sister. All right. I'm going to take B vitamins. B vitamins is a big deal.
It's a lot. Yeah.
It's a lot. So I'm going to try to go over this as quickly as I can. So genetically, we have a bunch of genes, and we're going to call them SNPs, SNPs. Genetic SNPs are genetic kind of little mutations, and everyone has different mutations on different genes. There are some that work in correlation with the B vitamins. One is MTHFR, another is MTRR, and there is very concrete research about there that people with Scoliosis almost always have mutations in these genes. Now, a lot of the population does as well. So if you have mutations in these genes, you are not able to methylate, or you're not able to consume. So I'm eating green leafy vegetables. I'm not able to break them down, absorb them, and transform them into some very important B vitamins into my body. So therefore, we're going to be deficient, most likely, unless you supplement with that. So one is going to be folate. So B9, we're not going to have enough B9. I have an MTHFR mutation, the C variation of MTHFR. So I'm 30% reduced on what I can uptake. One of my sons has no MTHFR mutations, but my husband found out has the other variant of MTHFR. And my eldest son won the lucky prize of getting both variants from us.
Oh, man.
He is 60 to 70% deficient in his ability to uptake this. So he's been supplementing for a long, long time. And guess what? His nutrients are perfect now. So
Mm.
yeah, so super interesting. So just because you have a genetic variant doesn't mean you're necessarily always going to be deficient. You just have to supplement. So B9 is going to be deficient, and you need to have methylcobalamin. It needs to be methylfolate. It needs to be pre-methylated. You're not going to take folate orally because you can't break it down. It needs to be pre-methylated. Probably methylcobalamin, which is B12. You're not just going to take cobalamin. You're probably not going to be able to break it down or methylate it. I recently found out that I'm super deficient in B2 riboflavin. We had a recent test for one of my other sons. He's super deficient in B6. So the whole Myers family is struggling somewhere along this B continuum, but it's very cool because we have the data, and like B supplements that are methylated, like, they're not very expensive. This is an easy thing to fix. And I know, Heather, that
Mhm.
this is a world that you have supplemented, hashtag slash struggled with for a while. Do you have anything to add on any of this?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have been into the SNPs more ingrained than I have, but I know I have the MTHFR SNP. Both of my kids have one. One is
Mm,
1C, one is the T. Um,
hmm
but they only have one. They didn't get both.
Not
So
homozygous.
it's
Yep.
not homozygous, but actually my daughter has the one that's a little more challenging, I guess, if you will, where I'm actually about to have labs done on her again and just check all her Bs, and I'll probably more than likely start her on some sort of B complex, just because her last set of labs showed that her Bs were a little bit lower. But yeah, no, I stay on a B complex. In fact, I don't even remember, we were checking some labs. I did a NutriVal, which is just kind of like that whole big broad panel, and we short term really bumped up my B complex just to take care of a few things. It was like a 1 month thing, and then I'll go back down.
Nice.
But I always stay on L-methylfolate, which is actually super high doses, higher, and talk to your doctor, but a higher dose methylfolate can help with depression and mood and things. And I just kind of had gone, when I wasn't sleeping well, my mood was low, and that has been super helpful. So, um, yeah.
I, and don't quote me on this. If you've got Scully, you need to get your B's
Mhm.
checked. And you
Yes,
probably are
yes,
going to be on a methylated B, or you should be on a methylated B probably forever. So I found,
yes.
so here's,
And even if
a,
you don't have labs done, just assume that you need to have pre-methylated vitamins. I
amen,
don't think
sister.
it doesn't hurt, right?
No,
Yeah.
no. So, a case study was published of a 4-month-old with severe early onset scoliosis who had a few MTHFR SNPs. B12 and B9 were a few of the supplements used for treatment, and improvement was shown. One
Mhm.
doctor who specializes in methylation goes as far as to say that scoliosis is a physical sign that you have methylation issues. B6 and B12 are also usually low if someone has an MTHFR SNP. Finally, an MTHFR SNP is associated with reduced bone mineral density. So it's just super interesting when you look at that and the thousands of people that I've worked with who have scoliosis over the years, and they're like, oh, I've got osteopenia, or I've got osteoporosis, or I have mood issues, or I'm on anti-anxiety medication, or I am depressed all the time, or I have OCD issues, or the list goes long. And I'm not a doctor. I can't diagnose. I don't diagnose, but I just sit back and I'm like, and I just will be like, hey, just wondered, are you on any vitamins? And they'll say yes or no. And I'm never going to suggest it, but I'm like, just kind of put it away in my mind. And the more you work with the scoliosis community, the more you're like, I see a trend. This is very
Yes.
interesting.
Yes. And I wonder if there's like my husband likes to stay on a B complex because it helps some neuropathy or some nerve pain in his hip. And I just wonder how it helps with neurological, discomfort or things like that too. I mean, I loved some of that research, and I think that's just like, that's a no-brainer because there's just so much related to scoliosis directly in
Totally.
the research. So,
are you ready to start proactively caring for your scoliosis, but you're not sure where to start? No problem. Spiral Spine's Scoli Care Package, which consists of 3 private sessions and 2 filmed, personalized 25-minute workout videos made by your instructor based on your lessons, give you personalized guidance and tools that you can keep using long after your sessions end. The private sessions can be taken at Spiral Spine Pilates in Nashville, Tennessee, or virtually anywhere from around the world. It's a supportive starting point if you're navigating scoliosis and want to better understand what can help your body move and feel better. Read more and sign up on spiralspine.com. When you've dealt with chronic illness and complex health issues for as long as I have, you become extremely careful about what you put into your body. And honestly, I've tried hundreds of supplement companies over the years, and let me tell you, they are not all the same. Thorne is a tried and true supplement company that I can always trust, no matter what practitioner I'm working with around the world. Functional medicine doctor, integrative practitioner, nutritionist, naturopath, you name it, Thorne is one brand nobody questions and always recommends. That says a lot. I love that Thorne is known for research-backed formulas, rigorous quality testing, and incredibly high ingredient standards. Their supplements are trusted by healthcare practitioners, professional athletes, and wellness professionals worldwide. Whether I'm supporting energy, inflammation, gut health, sleep, stress, or foundational nutrition, Thorne is one of the first brands I reach for. Head to spiralspine.com/shop to find my personal link where you can get 10% off your Thorne supplement order. The link is also in the show notes. Again, that's spiralspine.com/shop to find my personal link where you can get 10% off your Thorne order. So we're going to keep going on bone density in a minute, but I'm going to hop to NAC really quick. So NAC is an acronym, but it is some very cool research came out with the supplement NAC a handful of years ago, and I was super intrigued by it. So they I don't know why zebrafish are a good representation of humans, but they say that they are. I'm going to have to take your word for it on this. But they put, these zebrafish had scoliosis. They put the supplement NAC in the water, and their scoliosis went away. Wild research. So then I went down the pathway of like, well, what is NAC? Well, NAC helps with neuroinflammation. So, okay, so people with scoliosis have neuroinflammation. Well, I also know because from a functional medicine doctor, my entire family has been put on the supplement of NAC because NAC is a precursor to glutathione. And Heather alluded to this earlier. People that have scoliosis are crappy detoxers. We do not get stuff out of our body. Glutathione is one of our major ways that we get stuff out of our body. I had a bunch of tests done recently, some big tests, and my my glutathione cycles are like in the trash can, which from mold toxicity and mercury toxicity and all these other things, yeah, of course, I don't get stuff out of my body. But then if we go back to this NAC concept, interesting. So if we don't get stuff out of our bodies very well, then we can go to the precursor, one of the precursors, which is NAC, to help the glutathione production to get stuff out of our bodies. It's going to decrease neuroinflammation. So, could the zebrafish twisty situation with scoliosis also be associated with the fact that, I don't know, maybe their glutathione was not functioning very well? So
Mhm.
it's an interesting, like some people take NAC even for seasonal allergies.
Mhm.
So it's an interesting thing. My family has been on and off of it for years. Do you have any concepts to say on NAC, Heather?
No, I mean, I just think it's such a great antioxidant. It's a huge everybody knows NAC now. I think these days you can they almost took it off the market at one point, didn't
Oh
they? Like
wow,
you
I
weren't
don't
gonna
know.
be
I
able
didn't
to
hear
buy
that.
it. I think there was I could be I'm sure I'm almost certain it was that one that you couldn't even you almost couldn't buy it over the counter for some reason,
Wow,
um but yeah, interesting. And you can supplement with that. Interesting, and it's just a tidbit. Like my kids were on glutathione, I was on glutathione, and we took labs. And even despite being on glutathione, we were still low in glutathione.
yep,
So it just might be even you put it into our body, and it's like maybe our body just doesn't even know what to do with it. Like it's just not
correct.
getting in there somehow. So,
Yeah, I'm on a
so yeah,
handful of precursors, multiple precursors to
yeah,
glutathione because mine are so in the trash can. My glutathione whole levels are so in the trash can. So it's an interesting piece of research from the
yeah.
zebrafish world on NAC.
Yes. Wouldn't you love to be that zebrafish?
Oh my gosh. Put it in the water and the
I'd
spine
be
goes straight.
yeah, love it.
Hasn't quite
Good.
happened to me yet, but nonetheless.
Me neither, not when I get in the ocean.
Oh my gosh. All right, Heather, do you want to take omegas, omega-3 specifically?
Yeah, so this is one, I looked again, I didn't find a lot, obviously, where it was, direct relationship to scoliosis, but such an important thing for anti-inflammation. So omega-3 especially, it's such an important fat in your diet, and we know it decreases inflammation, increases bone health, which people with scoliosis need. They also have a part in neurotransmitter functioning, which is an essential part in daily brain operations. So brain, neuro, um, we know scoliosis is not just a bony problem. Like we've got neurological, hormonal, all those things. So most everybody needs more omega-3. I mean, just if you eat a Western diet, we just don't get a lot of omega-3s. So just helping, brain health, inflammation. I think it helps with sleep too. I mean, I take a lot more omegas than I used to, omega-3 specifically, just because I think it helps my brain rest a little bit better. My kids, I give it to them. I just maybe from a proprioceptive perspective too, anything that we can do to kind of keep our brain running on all cylinders. I even have noticed, and we'll get to hormones, but I also take an algal oil, like a plant-based omega, and I find that just helps regulate my cycles better too from a
Mm,
female perspective. So I think there's a hormonal component in there too with omegas. So it's just
beautiful.
something I think everybody needs, especially growing children, anybody going through puberty. I think that's just an important nutrient to
One
get
of
in.
my
There's plenty of research to support that. So,
Oh, yeah. Neurotransmitters were checked on both of my sons for a myriad of reasons, and both have neurotransmitter issues. And so they're on different forms. Uh, they're on different things to help them. One of my sons was put on extremely high doses of omegas. So it's just
mhm.
interesting. Again, I personally think that I just caught some stuff earlier for my kids, and that's why they didn't end up with Scully, because like they fit this textbook to a T. And
Mhm.
so it's just interesting to look at that and then look at my own biological children. It's like, hmm,
Mhm.
interesting.
And that's an easy one to test. Just you can just do a little finger prick. Watch your omega 6s though, because those can be inflammatory, which you get from a
Yep.
lot of like seed oils, prepackaged foods and that kind of thing. So
Yep.
All right, I'm going to take bone health. Specifically, I'm going to take vitamin D.
Mhm.
Um, Fascinating research. So I'm going to stand on a soapbox for a hot second and just say, I wish, and for any doctor that is listening to this, I wish that there could be just like an easy panel. It's like a Quest or a LabCorp panel that's like, hey, if someone comes in and they have scoliosis, there should just be a handful of very basic labs that are run. Um,
Yes.
and we're not even talking like a NutriVal. We're not even talking like a big thing. I'm talking about like vitamin D, an iron
Mhm.
panel, zinc, like basic stuff. So here is some fabulous research, and low vitamin D levels without negotiation are 100% connected with scoliosis, for the record.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
about 30% of those with AIS have osteopenia, which means their bones are becoming weaker and starting to lose mass. Osteopenia is usually thought of as a diagnosis that middle aged women get. But research has shown that many tweens and teens with AIS have osteopenia. Biopsies prior to surgery were taken from those with AIS, and the results showed issues with how quickly bone can repair itself, suggesting abnormal metabolism might contribute to the low bone mineral density and play an important role in the underlying root of scoliosis. I have another thing. One
Mhm.
interesting piece of research found that 68% of girls between the ages of 12 and 14 with AIS had a significantly reduced bone mineral density. There was no further progression of bone loss from age 12 to 14. This research suggests that osteopenia developed before the age of 12 in girls with scoli, which may be the primary source of scoli, not a secondary diagnosis.
Mhm.
Super fascinating and a little bit gut wrenching when you read it
Yeah.
and comprehend it at the same time. I will say, um, vitamin D, it is such an easy lab to run. You can just
Mhm.
go order it yourself and have it run. And it is a very cheap supplement to get in your body as well. I found for my own self, I actually have to go to a food based source of vitamin D because I actually was having a really hard time uptaking it through just a regular like cheap supplement. Both my boys are fine with the other ones though. So it's an interesting thing, but if you have scoliosis, you need to check your vitamin D, and that is an easy thing to get back up. And I
Mhm.
will also say calcium is a piece of the puzzle as well. Years ago, I went pretty hardcore paleo in my diet, and despite eating a lot of other myriad of foods, I had a test done, and my calcium was really low. And I was like, "What?" But I don't eat dairy. So then I had to do some calcium supplementation. Do you know that collard greens are extremely high in calcium? So now we have collard
Mhm.
greens in my house every week, and I actually absolutely love them because we have
Mhm.
we have found a great way to make them and consume them. So there's more than one way to get all of this. It doesn't mean that you have to be drinking glasses of cow's milk every day.
Mhm. Tofu also has very high calcium,
Yep.
and, sardines, if you can, do this whole
Yeah.
sardine.
Uh-huh.
I recently started getting, basil seeds, kinda like chia seeds, but they're basil seeds, super high in calcium,
What?
super
I didn't
high,
know
yes,
this.
and it's just like a chia seed, so I just put it in my smoothie. You could put it, make like pudding or all the things that do with chia seed. It, swells up, super high in fiber and calcium.
Oh.
Super
Ooh,
cool, yeah.
biohack of the day. All
I
right, I gotta go
know,
get some
yeah.
basil seeds. There's some basil
Basil,
seeds.
yep,
Sorry,
yep,
basil. Yes, I need to go get some basil seeds.
yeah.
Okay. Selenium. We're gonna go to the next one. Selenium. This is an easy situation. Many people with AIS, research has shown that those with AIS have low selenium levels. Low selenium status has been associated with increased risk of mortality, poor immune function, and cognitive decline. One of my sons, I was diagnosed with low selenium years ago. One of my sons, we found out like 2 weeks ago, he has low selenium. Super easy fix. Eat a Brazil nut.
Mm-hmm. That's
Little
it.
buttery nut. Yep. In my son's like supplement bin, he has a bag of Brazil nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Way better than supplementation. So, selenium.
Yep. And he's probably supporting his pituitary too, because the supplement I'm on for pituitary is manganese.
There we go. There we
Mm-hmm.
go. Speaking of, do you want to go and speak about manganese next?
Sure. Was that on my list? But I can do that. Yes. uh,
That's so funny.
So there was some really interesting research here. Researchers say that the genetic variant that does not stop the gene. Okay, so there's a gene related to manganese. Manganese deficiency is extremely rare, a gene SNP, I should say, as people obtain an adequate amount of manganese from their diet. Research suggests that the possibility that scoliosis may be amenable to dietary intervention when it comes to having this SNP. So the SNP is the SLC39A8 gene. Is that right, Erin? Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Which makes it hard for those with severe scoliosis, 50 degrees and above, are twice as likely to carry this variant of that gene. And it makes it hard for their bodies to uptake and use manganese. Interesting, this gene is also a transporter for metals like zinc, iron, cadmium, and manganese, but people with the SNP can't take in manganese. So some research shows that some people with that same SNP may have a hard time taking up zinc too. I think you have to be careful with manganese supplementing because you can go super high too soon, but I think you found some natural ways to get manganese recently, right? That would also kind of like the Brazil nut.
Did. I had a bunch of testing done on me recently, and when the doctor was like, "Oh, you have low manganese," I was like, "What? Oh my gosh!"
Yeah.
My mind is like going through all of this research, and I asked him for I don't have severe scoliosis, so I asked him. I was like, "Oh my gosh, do I need to supplement this?" He said, "Nope, it's best from your diet. Hazelnuts and pecans have manganese." Also, mussels and clams also have manganese. Improving your gut should also improve the absorption of manganese. I will say, I will say one thing about manganese. Very cool research came out a while back, and it talked about how young kids with scoli, I don't know how these doctors thought about checking manganese levels, but it was pretty severe scoli, and these doctors checked, and these kids had like severe deficiency in manganese. So they found this SNP in these kids that had scoli. They started doing very, very high levels of manganese supplementation into their body. Scoliosis was corrected. And so we had one kiddo at the studio. Her scoli went pretty severe all of a sudden. She was an early tween or early teen, I can't remember. She was and it was a runaway curve, and she went in to get surgery, and again, I don't know, awesome doctor, whoever it was, found she had a manganese deficiency, and had this SNP. And I had read this research, but I'd never known anyone to have it, and I was like, oh man, if we just knew that way earlier, that would have been really cool. And then we could have supplemented that before we ended up in surgery. But she still has it, regardless of if she had surgery or not. So she still has the deficiency. So that then needs to get fixed to help her live a longer and healthier life. So yeah, it's cool. And I mean, you just don't hear about like people having manganese deficiencies, but be careful on this. You can eat as many hazelnuts and pecans as you want, and as many mussels and clams as you want, but on this front, be mindful. And Brazil nuts for selenium, eat those nuts, but be mindful. Like, you need to know that you actually have a deficiency and you have these SNPs before you start heavily supplementing on these fronts.
Yes.
I do want to talk about iron real quick before we go to hormones, which I'm going to let you cover, Heather. So iron is a big deal with people that have scoli. Heather, have you ever struggled with anemia or iron deficiency?
Only during my first pregnancy. And I think I should take that back. A little bit during pregnancy, both pregnancies. I did have to supplement with my first pregnancy. And then the second one, I think they check that,
Yep.
as part of your process. And so I did need to do that then too.
Yeah. So there's some cool research, and it shows that a lot of people with scoliosis have iron deficiencies.
Mm-hmm.
I was anemic for a while. One of is super fascinating personal issue with this issue. One of my sons was anemic for a very long time. We supplemented heavily with iron. It did not change the number in any way, shape, fashion, or form. I can't even tell you how many oral supplements he swallowed and drank. I mean, like he could have created like an I-beam with how much iron the man consumed. And it didn't do anything. And the doctors were like blaming it on the fact that he's a cross country distance runner and he's like losing it. And I was like, I'm going to call BS on that. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't buy it. So we found for him, copper can be associated with this issue. So you need to get copper. And again, that goes to zinc, and it's all these metals are related. But we found for him that he has acid issues in his stomach. So we started increasing his acid levels with digestive enzymes and betaine HCl. Amazingly, iron popped back up
Huh.
because he
Yeah.
was able to consume and digest and break down all of the
Mm.
iron that he was already eating in his diet. Heavy meat diet. Like we knew he consumed enough iron in his diet, but he wasn't able to uptake it. So it was
Mm-hmm.
an interesting thing that we learned. But I will tell you a little hack. If you are iron deficient, and if you know you've got gut issues that have to get fixed, and if you know you have stomach issues that, you're not, the list is too long. You can also get iron patches that you dermally take in through your skin. So that's what we started doing with my son. And at night, he would slap an iron patch on his deltoid. It would actually help him sleep better. And he dermally was uptaking it. And that also helped his iron levels increase. I will say, if you are going in for scoliosis surgery, you will lose a lot of blood. It's just a guarantee. So
Mm-hmm.
you need to get your iron checked before you go in for surgery. And you need to get your iron levels as high as you can get them before going into surgery. And then after surgery, a while, you need to get your iron levels checked again. And you just need
Mm-hmm.
to get those iron levels back up because we want your body to heal as quickly as it can from surgery.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Or if you have heavy menstrual cycles, that
Nice. There
might
you
be a
go.
time to check it as well if you're a female um, with lots of blood loss. So,
One of the questions I get asked all the time is, what products do you actually use, Erin? Whether it's scoliosis tools, movement equipment, recovery products, books, or wellness resources, I wanted one place where you could easily find all my favorites. That's why I created the Spiral Spine Shop. It's a collection of products I personally use, recommend, and frequently mention on this podcast and in my work with Pilates clients. So if you hear me mention something and think, wait, what was that again? Don't worry, I've made it easy. Just head to spiralspine.com/shop to browse all my favorite tools, resources, and products that support movement, healing, and feeling your best. Again, that's spiralspine.com/shop. Heather, do you want to talk about hormones and what we've found about hormones and scoli? And it's a kind of a hot topic.
mm-hmm. It is a hot topic. So as far as, research, it was found that abnormal levels of sex hormones can affect development and progression of scoliosis. The consequences of reduced levels of these hormones should be considered as one of the most important factors involved in the development of scoli. Now, just to talk a little bit, I had a question. So when you're going through some of the biggest times when scoliosis can change is big hormone fluctuation. So puberty or leading up to puberty, pregnancy, hormones are very fluctuating. And then, perimenopause, especially menopause when hormones really go down. So, it's something to keep an eye on and just something to consider. And you can test those hormones. So if you maybe find that like from a child, if my child were very slow in development or very delayed, I might go ahead and check some sex hormones just to make sure, because I think delayed you and I were delayed, and I think you
Yeah,
were later
I
in
was like 15 when I had my first period.
yes, in development, petite, small
Yep,
boned,
that was
all those
me.
kind of risk factors. Um, so that's something to consider. Now, you're not going to, and then, pregnancy, take care of yourself during that time as best as
Yeah.
you can. Menopause, another time, just and start checking hormones there. But I did have a question from a client that, in reading chapter 13, she said, I'm thinking about going back on hormone replacement therapy, but it sounds like maybe you were a little anti-estrogen. And I'm like, oh, okay, no, not necessarily. So it's just something to be mindful of. Obviously, if a child, you're not going to talk to a preteen or a teenager about hormone replacement therapy, but there
Right.
is a time and a place for that, especially later in life, because again, you need the estrogens to protect your bone health. I think at
Mhm.
some point I am not on hormone replacement therapy because I've tried it and it just did not helped me, it actually made my sleep worse. It kind of had the backwards response of what maybe most people get from hormone replacement therapy. And I think that's because I'm a bad detoxer. So I
Yeah.
think because there was other things going on, and so up the chain from hormones is sometimes where you need to start, and
Mhm.
then things will start to calm itself down. So if you're having like big hormone symptoms, maybe first start with all the nutritional things we've talked about and sleep, and look at what you're eating and look at your sleep wake cycle and those types of things. And sometimes hormones will calm themselves down because they're kind of downstream. I mean, I always hear this one doctor say when cortisol is high, progesterone is shy. So, high stress can affect your hormones, a lot of things, but definitely I don't think there's a negative to HRT, hormone
Yeah.
replacement therapy, and it's not an, anti-estrogen. It's just things to be aware of
I
and
will
mindful
say,
of. Yeah.
I love it. You said it so well, Heather. And I will say, I've heard this many, many times that someone's like, "Oh, my daughter's really having a hard time like getting regular cycles, so we
Mhm.
put her on birth control." And I
Yeah.
was like, "Okay." That is not, in my opinion, the answer. I actually had a client
Mhm.
within the last month who said, and my client has scoliosis, her daughter does not. But I was like, I mean, I just was seeing all the signs, all the research going through my brain. She was like, oh my gosh, her anxiety level has increased tremendously over the last year. Her daughter, who's
Uh-huh.
15. And so I'm like running the math. And she goes, and her periods were all over the place. So we put her on an antidepressant and we put her on birth control. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, and
Uh-huh.
how's that working out for you? So
Mhm.
yes, but like, okay, anxiety. Okay, we need to go check all of our B's. We need to check
Yes.
neuroinflammation. And then
Yes.
hormones.
Toxicity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I knew that she was actually living in a moldy house at the time. And I did say,
There you
I was like,
go.
do you think that maybe that black mold that's on your wall, do you think that could have anything to do with your daughter getting some anxiety? She was like, it's not that. I was like, okay, well, let's keep doing our work on the reformer then.
Yeah.
Not
Yes.
my place to say anything, but
Maybe another day.
maybe another day. Maybe you'll listen to this podcast and do something about it. But
Yeah.
but I just think hormones. They're like, what do I do about hormones? Okay, I have scoliosis now. What? Like, we have so many. We go through all these nutrients. We talk about ways that you can supplement. We talk about tests that you can run, and we also talk about foods that you can do. Like, there's
Mhm.
really cool stuff. I have been on so many things to pull estrogen from my body. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm a really good estrogen holder on to. But that doesn't
Mhm.
mean that I'm never going to do HRT. It means I got to get this stuff out of my body, rebalance myself. So, like, when I first started on my long health journey, I was pre PCOS.
Mhm.
And I was shocked when I found this information out. Hormones were flipped, jacked up. I asked my functional medicine doctor, I said, are you going to do something about my hormones? He goes, no. I'm going to fix the other problems and your hormones will balance out. And I was like, no, that's baloney. But I
Mhm.
didn't have the knowledge to say anything. Oh, he was totally right. Within a year,
Mhm.
all my hormones were back, balanced. I was no longer pre PCOS. And I was like, but we didn't even literally do anything for my hormones. This is this is wild. So, like what you said, Heather, hormones are downstream. And please go find a functional medicine doctor that can help you with all of this. It is complex dealing with toxicity, dealing with metals. These are all complex. And Scully people, it's a good thing. You just need some people to help you along the journey on inside of your body. And so Heather and I have compiled in the book some places, like 3 different websites, I think, that you can go and find functional medicine doctors that can help you. Like I see someone locally. I also see someone in another state. I'm actually going to be seeing someone who's like halfway across the world virtually, but it's cool. We can see people virtually around the world. So, the world's your oyster. Heather, do you have anything else to add about nutrition before we start wrapping this up?
I mean, just the kind of to add to what you were saying about antidepressant pills and birth control, those types of things. If you have something going on toxic in your, if you have mold toxicity, if you have some of those things, I have learned through experience, it hijacks your limbic system, like our doctor, told me, and it can exaggerate the side effects of that. So just keep that in mind that, until some of these other things are taken care of, even the side effects of the Band-Aid that you're trying to put on can make things worse. And that might be your clue that, oh, wait a second, maybe we need to take a step back and look at some other things first before taking the quick, easy option. The way back to health is not going to be a quick pill. It's just
No.
not. You have to do the work. Moms and dads, you have to do the work. You have to, divide up little supplements each day. I do it every night for my kids. I have little cups and I put them out for them the next morning. It takes some effort, but it's worth it. And I keep telling my kids, you'll thank me someday. I
Yeah.
hope. Yeah.
Yeah. And
And I'm going to thank me someday for taking care of myself. Yeah.
amen, sister. And I think the more I sit with all of this and have for, almost 2 decades now, the more I think the way you stop scoliosis from going to the next generation is by fixing the insides. Is by
Mhm.
fixing and by plugging the holes of the nutrient deficiencies. We live in a toxic world, my friends. It's not the same that it used to be. Foods are deficient, and so um, you just you just need some good help to get you through it, and it's okay. So, all of you guys that have scoli, like, just start checking your kids, start checking their insides, start getting blood work run. If you're a grandparent that has scoli and maybe it didn't hit the next one generation down, well, maybe you can push for your grandkids, get them tested because they're still genetically partially yours, you know?
Mhm.
And so it's complicated. Is there a Scully gene? No, there's not one specific gene that ended up in Scully, but there's kind of like a bunch of kind of like deficiencies along the pathway. And I was a picky eater, and so I'm sure my nutrients were absolutely in the trash can when I was a child. So it's just, but my parents didn't know. It's not
Yeah.
until we started hashing out all this research that there's like, whoa, there's so much. There's so much that you can do. So, and I know, so Heather has been on her own health journey, and we both love Jesus. And I know that the Lord has placed songs and Bible verses on our heart to help us get through the hard period. So, Heather, was there a specific song or Bible verse that was really impactful for you during those hardest points?
Yes, and I'm glad I have it memorized because I forgot to grab it. But um, several years ago, actually, a middle school. I was at a Bible study in a middle school. Former middle school principal. I think of where your kids go to school, Erin. Was there leading, and she challenged us all to learn. Now I don't have it with me, but it's from Lamentations. I'll have to get but we all know it. It's but this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. Great is thy faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore, I'll trust in him. Most of us know the great is thy faithfulness and new mercies every morning. But the part that I really think about there is, but this I call to mind. It's kind of like, no matter what happens, water pouring down from my ceiling, my kid's sick, my husband's sick, I'm in pain again, or I'm not sleeping again. But this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. And you think about, the Lord is my portion, says my soul. And I think about that a lot. I mean, obviously, new mercies every morning is so fantastic to think about, but the Lord is my portion. And when you think of portion, you think of your inheritance, what you're given, and that's your portion. But the Lord is your portion. He's the creator of the universe. He's Alpha, he's Omega. No more, no less than that. And that's all you need. And when it says my soul, it's not the physical body. It's not scoliosis. It's my eternal soul. And so that just helps me really get through things. It's like, this is not forever. Scoliosis is not forever. Someday I will have a perfect body, this in the next place that I go to in heaven. And so it just helps put things in perspective for me. And this I call to mind, therefore I have hope. So yeah.
Heather
Look it up. It's in Lamentations.
I love it. Heather is a fellow soul taker carer of at Spiral Spine. and it's so good. So to finish, Heather, would you mind praying over everyone and just blessing them?
Sure. I'll be happy to. Father God, you are God and we are not. Lord, thank you for every person listening. I lift each listener up to you today. And I just pray that you would meet them wherever they are on their journey. I pray that you would redeem hurts or suffering they have experienced in ways beyond their imagination, Lord. Redeem it all. God, if it's a parent listening, give them wisdom. I know they so badly want the best for their child. Lord, guide their steps, protect their children. And for those who have scoli, Lord, God, I just pray that you would renew their spirits and send them helpers. Help them to do the next right thing, Lord. You are the great physician. You are a God who heals mind, body, and spirit. Many of us have so many questions of, why me, or how did this happen, God? Our bodies get tired. Lord, our souls grow weary. And Lord, we just may not find the answers to those questions this side of heaven. But help us to have hope. Help us to find peace and to delight in the life that you have given all of us, Lord. Lord, refresh and renew weary souls, heal any shame or doubt or negative thoughts. And I just pray for each family, each marriage represented by the listeners here. And I just command your angels to guard them in all of their way. And if they don't know you, Lord, I pray that they will encounter you in a big way on their journey, Lord. All to your glory. Amen.
Amen. All right, my sweet friends, all I'm asking, take the next best step. Just one step, not a big giant leap, just the next best step. Maybe you just get a few labs run. Next best step. You can do this, my sweet friends. Until next time. Bye, guys.
Thank you for joining me on What Helps Us Heal. I hope today's conversation leaves you inspired to listen to your body, honor your journey, and take the next best step. To continue your path, connect with Spiral Spine at spiralspine.com or on Instagram at SPIRALSPINE. Be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. Until next time, keep moving, stay curious, and embrace the journey.